Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha Om Tare Tu Re Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha.
Hello, everyone. This is the Lama Live livestream event of Lama Tsultrim Allione. I'm Drimé, and it's always a pleasure to me to welcome you all. Please say hello in the chat, and it's also so nice to know where you are connecting from. At the end of our gathering, you will have the opportunity to make an offering of dana in gratitude for our time together today, and I will talk more about it closer to the end of our event. Sorry. Before I turn it over to Lama Tsultrim, I'd like to quickly tell you about two upcoming programs being held by Tara Mandala. I'll post the links in the chat shortly after. Over the course of the first 2 weekends of February, there will be an opportunity to learn the Che practice, as transmitted and taught by Chogyal Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche. Che is a unique blend of the Tibetan shamanic traditions and the Buddhist tradition of compassion and emptiness. This retreat will be held by the Tara Mandala senior teacher, Carla Jackson Brewer. And then we invite you to join us for a celebration of women and the sacred feminine at the roots of Buddhism. A 2-day virtual retreat called Returning to Our Roots, Voices of the Sacred Feminine in Early Buddhism with Wendy Garling promises a joyful immersion in storytelling, contemplation, and practice. I'm now honored to hand over to Lama Tsultrim Allione. Thank you, Lama La, for being with us today.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening, as the case may be. I'm talking to you from Costa Rica, from Casa Tara in the northwestern part of Costa Rica. And I would love to know where you're tuning in from. And I'll look here for a minute. See, Seattle, Germany, lots of Germanys. One thing I could say to you Europeans who are tuning in is on January 28th, we're going to have a European Sangha Day online. This is only for people who actually live in Europe and want to be involved with the Tara Mandala Sanghas in Europe. But if you do, I will be posting that link for registration for that event, which is free. There's no cost. It's a community building event. And I will be posting that on my social media, either later today or tomorrow. The idea is to get all the Europeans connected and find each other as a Sangha, because we have Sanghas in various different places, but they don't all know each other. And then we have many people, like people here, who maybe don't even know that there's a German Tara Mandala and there's a website and so on. So all of the senior teachers of Tara Mandala will be teaching that day briefly, each one, and also I will be teaching. So this is only for Europeans, and we just wanted to let you know about it. Saturday, the 28th of January. And yeah, seeing where you all are from, Virginia, wonderful Netherlands, near Amsterdam. Close to the beach. Oh, is that Haarlem? I lived in Haarlem for a while in Holland. Oh, so how's everybody doing? I'm wondering, there's been really intense weather events in various places, including where I'm living now in California, a lot of really intense weather. And of course, the war in Ukraine is still going on, and there's other things around the world. And there's also beautiful, wonderful things. I just spent the last week at Blue Spirit teaching with Jack Cornfield, Trudy Goodman, Dan Siegel, Alyssa Epple, Carolyn Welch. And then they all came to visit, and we had a beautiful time together. And I'll be back teaching at Blue Spirit February 11th to 18th. It's a really special retreat center here on the coast. So, see how everybody's doing. Peru needs your prayers, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm always thinking about Iran and Afghanistan and the women there, what's happening with them. They kind of go out of the news, but their oppression is still happening. And so let's just take a moment and raise bodhicitta together, the intention to be together today for the benefit of all beings. And let's do a short meditation on world peace. And so beginning with yourself, feel peace within yourself. Take a moment to feel any agitation that you might have and relax that. Feel a deep inner peace. And then extend that inner peace out to your immediate environment. I'm in the jungle, and so I'm stretching it out to all the monkeys and pisotes and the creepy crawlies, the flying ones. There's a lot of vultures around here and so many birds. So wherever you are, extend that inner peace that you've generated in your heart to all beings everywhere. And particularly those right around you. Imagine that it goes out in a wave. Waves that reach those beings around you. I'm near the ocean, so I'm also extending it to the ocean dwelling beings. The turtles have arrived to lay their eggs here on the beach just below me. And so I'm extending that peace to the turtles, such amazing ancient beings. And then extend that inner peace out more widely to the whole country that you're in, whichever country you're tuning in from. And perhaps you know of places in your country where there's difficulty right now, or in the country where you're staying at the moment. And allow that peace to wash over those difficult places and difficult situations and calm it. Free those beings from fear. May they be safe. May they be happy. And then extend it out to the whole continent that you're on. I'm in the North and South American continent, so far up and so far down. Europe extends out into Russia and beyond into Asia. All those places. And imagine that peaceful, resting feeling going out to all those beings. And not only human beings, all the animals, the birds, the creepy crawlies, ocean beings. And then spread it out to the whole world, to Africa, huge continent, and all the way through Asia and down to Australia, New Zealand, and all the Malaysian places and islands, everywhere, up to the North Pole and down to the South Pole. See the whole world enveloped in a blanket of peace. Sending that peace to all the parents who have lost children, and all the children who have lost parents. To anyone who is wounded, who needs peace. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be relieved from suffering and the causes of suffering. All beings without one exception. Thank you, everyone. Somebody asked if I watched the turtles. Yes, I was down there 2 days ago. I have a friend who's from Costa Rica and from the village where the turtles come, and he lets me know when they come, and we went down, Jack and Trudy and Dan and Alyssa, and we saw them laying their eggs. That's what they're doing now. So at one point they come and they lay their eggs, and then they cover them up, and they walk back to the ocean. And it's so powerful when you see them actually enter the ocean. And they struggle to get there once they lay their eggs, especially when it starts to get hot out. Like they usually do it at night, but sometimes they get kind of delayed, and then it gets hot, and they take a long time to make it to the ocean. And then the water washes over them, and you can just feel their relief and the release into that weightlessness that they have in the ocean that, of course, they don't have on land. And then it's a little over a month, or a month and a half, where the eggs stay in these nests, and they do get disturbed by the vultures that are around here. And many of them don't make it, but then eventually some make it. They wake up in their shells and make their way out of their shell and then down to the ocean. And they look sort of like wind-up turtle toys when they're doing it. They're like really small, like, not big, and they're they can go pretty fast. And there's an instinct that you want to just pick them up and take them to the ocean, but you can't do that because they're collecting memory of that smell and those minerals and everything to do with that beach. And they'll come back 15 years later, females, and lay their eggs on that same beach. So that's a good example of the Tibetan word she, which means to know. Like, how do they know? What is that knowing to find this place again? It's the word in Tibetan is she, and it means knowing. Ye she is primordial knowing, the knowing of our primordial state. And then Sherab is the word for prajna, or transcendental wisdom. And it's with prajna that you discover yeshe, or jnana in Sanskrit. So you have that quality of the mind that has the ability to discover its true condition. And that tool that discovers it is prajna. And what is discovered is jnana, or yeshe. So they use their she to get back, and also to get to the ocean once they've been born. Like, what is that? We call it instinct, but what is instinct? It's a knowing. It's a knowing that we're born with. As humans, we have often been cut off from our instincts. So we have to find that knowing again within ourselves. Thank you. Nice to hear from everybody. So today, I thought I would teach from this text called the Kunjed Gyalpo, which is a very early Dzogchen text. And it is from the lineage of Semde. Dzogchen has three main lineages: Semde, Longde, and Menakde. Semde means the mind series, Longde means the space series, and Menakde means the pith instruction series. And so a few weeks ago, I taught from this, And since then, I have gotten the whole Tibetan text that I have been studying, and I'm really excited about this material because it's very early and they're short. They're these little kind of pith instructions of the 20 lineage holders of Dzogchen Semde from the land of Odiana or Ujjain and India before it went to Tibet. So it ends in its journey to Tibet, this lineage, with Vimalamitra and Sri Simha. Odiana is a place, some say, oh, it's a mythical place. It never really existed. But it seemed it did really exist because there's all kinds of people from there. And some say it still exists in another dimension. It was considered to be an enlightened place, an enlightened society. And that's where Padmasambhava was from, who brought Buddhism to Tibet. And many of these teachers in this lineage were from Odiana also. The reason why I'm kind of smiling talking about, some say it still does exist, is that my teacher, Chögyal Namkhe Norbu, who was a great dreamer, that was his city, was his dreams. And his dreams were not like normal dreams that we have, that are kind of more like purifying our experiences of our normal life. He dreamt and he went to other dimensions. He met with enlightened beings. He received teachings. He received specific formulas for medicines and so on. And in some of his dreams, he went to Odiana, and he was told in his dream that's where he was. And one of the people in this lineage is someone that he met there in that dream, actually series of dreams. And her name is Goma Devi, Gomidevi, Goma Devi. And she taught him these very extensive, precise dances that are done on a mandala, which represents the world. The center of the mandala is the north and south poles, and the outside of the mandala is the equator. And so he had these dreams where she taught him this. And they're very precise. And he would go back to sleep and she would say, no, the right hand, the palm is facing down in the third step. Things like that. So there's so many things that exist that we don't see with our sense perceptions because of our own limits, but that doesn't mean they don't exist. And there are other dimensions of other beings that we don't see because of our nervous systems. We're limited by our nervous systems. We have only our senses and whatever we can do with our minds. An uncovered mind, a mind that is freed from obscurations, can see much more than normal people. And Namkhe Norbu Rinpoche was one of those beings. And so Goma Devi was one of the lineage holders in the Semde lineage. And I was particularly interested when I first read about this lineage, that there were 6 women in it. And of those 6 women, there were 3 who were called princesses and 3 who were called prostitutes. And I was particularly interested in that word prostitute, and that these prostitutes were lineage holders, because I have for a long time been interested in the whole historical lineage, if you will, of these women who were not prostitutes in the normal sense of the word. They were trained in the erotic arts and they could transmit through the erotic arts, but they were educated women. Often they owned land and they also spoke several languages and were dancers, and also they were musicians often, and they were cultivated, educated, and independent. That's the key thing about them. They weren't belonging to any man. And they might have a sexual relationship with someone if they made the right offerings, but they wouldn't just do it with anybody. So they were really like courtesans. And so 3 of the women in this lineage that I'm going to be teaching from, and I think I'm going to do a series of these teachings over the next months. I may not do it every week. Like next week, Jack Cornfield will be my guest. Really looking forward to that. We're really old friends. He's the best known of all the Western Vipassana teachers. And I'll be talking to him next week on the 29th. But when it's just me, I think I will probably continue to teach these little pith instructions. And maybe there will be a book that comes out of this eventually. So anyway, how does that sound? Do you like that idea of teaching from that? I hope so. And I want to thank my Dharma brother, Adriano Clemente, who is the main translator for Chögyal Namkhe Norbu, for sending me the Tibetan of these. He translated the book. This is the book that they're from. I don't know if you can see that. It's called The Supreme Source. And it was published by Snow Lion, who were then absorbed by Shambhala. I'm not sure if it's still in print, but if it is, I really recommend it. The Supreme Source. So, I taught at Blue Spirit last week, and I taught one of them there. And so I'm going to teach the next one now. So in the text it says, then King Dahentalo perfectly understood the meaning of the primordial state and expressed his realization thus. So the way the lineage goes is that someone receives a teaching and then they express their understanding in a little phrase, and then they teach the next person. And so the first one was from Manjushri Mitra, who was the main disciple of Garab Dorje, who was the first human to teach Dzogchen, at least in the Buddhist tradition. I'm not sure in the Bön tradition, which also has Dzogchen. He was the first teacher, Garab Dorje. He was called the Crystal Child, and he was found abandoned and then raised by a king and began to teach when he was 8 years old. And he taught Dzogchen. He said that Dzogchen had been taught in 13 other solar systems before it was taught on this earth. And as I said, there are so many things that are happening in our universe that we don't know. And it's very unlikely that we're the only life in our universe. In any case, his main student was Manjushri Mitra, Champal Shinyan in Tibetan. And so he taught him. And then Manjushri Mitra taught to the king Dahentalo. And so this is Dahentalo saying what he understood. I am Dahentalo. My mind is like celestial space. So that mind, the word in Tibetan is Sem, and celestial space is Namkai Ying. So Namkai Ying means the space or the dimension of the sky. So it's not celestial space like some sort of heavenly realm. It's the vastness of space. So my mind is like the vastness of space. The vastness of space has no center or border. So these two words are used repeatedly here, this U and Ta. U means center, and Ta means limit, like boundary. And so let's just take a moment and sit with that idea of limitless space and that our mind has no center and no edge. So become aware of your awareness. And then notice that that awareness actually doesn't dwell in your body. It's not centered in your body. That awareness itself permeates everything, yet has no center and no edge, no limit. We tend to think that our awareness is limited to our brain or our body, but in fact, this awareness is all pervasive. It's operating within our body at the moment. But it's not limited to that. Yesterday, I was down at the beach. I go to the beach every day for the sunset. And I was there sitting, golden orb setting in the west. And I had been studying these teachings, and I felt that vastness. It's always present. It's not only present when we're aware of it. This expansive space has no center or border. Bodhicitta has no center or border. So this word bodhicitta, many of you, if you've studied, particularly Mahayana Buddhism, you know that the word, bodhicitta, has relative bodhicitta and absolute bodhicitta. And that's how it's taught in Mahayana. And when we generate relative bodhicitta, we generate the intention to benefit all beings. It's our heartfelt compassion for all beings that's generated, and that's called raising bodhicitta, which is what we did at the beginning. But in Dzogchen, this word, Changchup Sem, has a different meaning. And that was something that Chogyal Namkhe Norbu really emphasized. He was like, Dzogchen words are different than regular Buddhist words. And they look the same. It says Changchup Sem or Changchup, but the meaning, when it's in the context of Dzogchen, is different. And the word bodhicitta in the Dzogchen sense is our true condition, which is primordial awakeness, primordial wisdom, that capacity inside ourselves that's always present but doesn't come forth until it's pointed out. And that's why pointing out instructions is so important. Pointing out meaning that a teacher points it out to you. And then when you see it, you think, oh, wow, that's been there all the time. I just didn't see it. And so that is the way the word bodhicitta is used here. It's our true nature. It's our true condition. Jang means to purify, and chup means to attain. And so it's that which is attained through purification. But in the Dzogchen sense, it's always there and it's always perfect. It just needs to be uncovered. So bodhicitta has no center and no border. Meditating means being undistracted. So that's what the meaning of meditation is in Dzogchen. It means being undistracted, simply undistracted, because you're not meditating on something. You're becoming undistracted from your true condition, which is already present. And that is this mind, which has no center and no boundary, no edge. So let's try that. Meditation is undistraction, undistractedness. Meditation is not being distracted. If you're not distracted, where are you? You're in that vast expanse of mind. No center, no fringe. in the ultimate nature that knows no center or border. Meditating means undistracted in the ultimate nature that knows no center or border. This word in Tibetan for ultimate nature is chuni. In Sanskrit, that's dharmata. Not dharmadhatu, not dharmakaya, dharmata. Ta. It's as things are. Ta, dharmata. Dharma is everything. And so I think my favorite translation for this is suchness. How things are in their real condition. Dharmata. And let me know if you have any questions. So I would, in Tibetan, those words are actually opposite from the way it's translated here. In other words, the line in the ultimate nature that knows no center or border is before. Meditating means undistracted. And so I would translate that in the suchness that knows no center or border, meditating means undistracted. And let me know if you feel you're understanding this or if questions are coming up. I'll look in the chat. The main way to integrate this is through practicing with a teacher. Have a teacher, a living teacher who knows this and teaches it. In this way, he realized the essence and obtained the power of longevity. So that's referring to King Dahintalo. And then the next one begins. Prince Tuo Rajiti, or Rajahasti, the son of King Dahintalo and Queen Tsongyal, received the transmission of the essence from the Nirmanakaya Garb Dorje. So that means that this son of King Dahintalo actually was a student of Garb Dorje directly also. And then he asked his father for the complete teachings. King Dahintalo summarized their essential meaning for him thus. So this is one of those little essential meanings. Okay, so now we have bodhicitta. That word's repeated a lot here. So remember what I said that meant. Bodhicitta is the Buddha of the 3 times. So traditionally, there's the Buddha of the past, the Buddha of the present era, which is Sakyamuni Buddha, and the Buddha of the future, which is Maitreya. So that's the Buddhas of the 3 times. Buddhas of the past were born from it. So the past Buddhas came into being as Buddhas through realizing this bodhicitta, this true condition. That's how they became Buddhas. Without this, they wouldn't be Buddhas. So you could say they're born from it. Just as you reach awakening, will be born from it. or born into it. Buddhas of the present abide in it. So the Buddhas that exist now as Buddhas are inseparable from bodhicitta. That's what makes them Buddhas. That's what distinguishes them from ordinary sentient beings. And it's not something that's developed because it doesn't come into existence. It's always present. It's a matter of us uncovering our true condition. Buddhas of the future will be enlightened in it. So in the future, all the Buddhas that become Buddhas, male or female Buddhas, will become Buddhas in bodhicitta. The state of the Buddhas of the three times is one's own mind. So that's how he translated it. The way I would translate it is one's own mind is the Buddhas of the three times. Rangsam, that's the Tibetan. Rangsam is the state. Their own mind is the state of the Buddhas of the three times. So the Buddhas of the three times are not separate from Chanchu Sem. In other words, that's it. That's what makes them Buddhas. Is their recognition of their inseparability from this vast awareness that has no center and no edge. So let's sit for a moment again, feeling that. Recognizing our awareness. This isn't our thoughts. This is a vast knowing that's operating through this system that we call the body. And yet it is far beyond the limits of one body. It's permeating everything. It's the intelligence of the universe. Let your awareness expand out. Or let your recognition of your awareness extend out limitlessly. Let me know in the chat if you have any questions. I'll just look and see for a moment. Are any? See any? Yeah, right. With no center and no border, I am continuity. That's right. Oh, good. As someone who's not a native English speaker is appreciating how slowly I'm speaking, because we are attuning to this. There's someone who's saying, I'm recovering from COVID and find my mind is spacey or foggy. So I'm just experiencing these teachings spontaneously as they are for me. This is strange to me, as it's in its early stages. I had vibrant, clear dreams, almost lucid. That was the upside. The downside is the waking state. Yeah, so now the spacey, foggy is this main waking state, not unpleasant, sort of comfortably numb. Yeah, so I imagine you're wondering how to work with that state with this. How do you find this when you are in that kind of foggy state created by the virus in the brain? I think one thing, David, is to realize that this awareness isn't the brain. And it might be a bit challenging because in a way you're using the prajna, which functions with the brain, to see this. But just realize that you can drop below that fogginess out into limitless continuity of awareness. Somebody wants the teaching schedule for this year, and that's still being formulated, and we will post it, and it will be also up on Tara Mandala website and on my social media. What is the purpose of compassion for realizing the nature of mind? That's a good question. Compassion is the way this awareness expresses itself. So when we talk about the nature of mind, we say its essence is empty, its nature is luminosity, and its expression is compassion. So when that emptiness, which is the vastness, arises as appearances, like everything that you're seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, thinking, that's all the appearances of emptiness, or the radiance of emptiness, or the display of pure potentiality. And when those two come together, it creates compassion, because we see in that state our interconnectedness. We're not focused on the self as we normally are when we're in the dualistic state. We're having an experience of totality, and so naturally compassion arises in that. So it's part of it. Those are the three kayas. Dharmakaya is the empty essence. Sambhogakaya, or the dimension of luminosity, is the radiance display. And Nirmanakaya, or the embodiment of enlightenment in this world, is compassionate resonance. Is Nundro practice a requirement to have done before Dzogchen? Traditionally, it was, and many teachers, for many teachers, it still is. And some teachers have chosen to teach it without that prerequisite, like Chogyal Namkhen Orbu. And for me, I can say I've done several full traditional nundros of the 500,000 accumulations and so on, and I found it a very useful process to go through. And at the same time, if you are able to, through meditation, tap into this and rest in it, then maybe Nundro isn't necessary. And some teachers are teaching it without the prerequisite because of the challenging times that we're in now, the difficult moment we are in history. But the problem is then people can think that because they've heard the Dzogchen teachings and they've understood them intellectually, that they've realized them. That's the danger. And so I think it's important to maintain humility, to keep receiving teachings, and to practice. You have to practice meditation every day and do retreats, long retreats, short retreats, whatever you can do. So our time is almost up. So I'll answer one more question that I see here. About the Lunar New Year activity. So it's Chinese New Year now. I think it's today. I'm going to a Chinese New Year party today. So I guess it's today. And that's not the same as Tibetan New Year. Tibetan and Chinese culture are not the same. Tibet had a very independent culture from China, and that includes the way that they celebrate New Year. So that will come a little later. And there will be at Taramandala, when we have that Tibetan New Year, there will be various different celebrations, including the opportunity to offer butter lamps in the temple, which is a beautiful thing to do. I always do that. Even now I'm not there. I make donations and I offer butter lamps, light in the new year. But happy Chinese New Year to everyone. It's a good day to make some aspirations because it's new moon. And so let's end by making a deep, heartfelt aspiration of something new, maybe something that new that you're going to do, like start a daily meditation practice if you don't have one, or maybe there's something else. So let's take a moment for you to think about what you want to aspire to today. And then make that aspiration, feeling that energy of the moon beginning to wax again, to grow. Thank you, everyone. And I'm really excited to be teaching this text. I will be continuing to do that, except for when I have guests, and I will go through it gradually. So I'm sending you all lots of love. And yes, may all beings be happy and have the causes of happiness. And thank you all, and have a beautiful rest of your day or evening. And many thanks to our beautiful Drimé, who looks so much like my mother did when she was young. Sometimes I feel like my mother's there when she was young, for organizing this and hosting it. And she's in Poland, all the way on the other side of the world from where I am. And we are an international Sangha. And remember, Europeans, if you want to find out more about what's going on in Europe, January 28th, you have that opportunity, and I will be posting a link to register for that. And please respect the idea that it's just for Europeans, because we will do other things like this for other places, but this one's for them. And we want to leave space for all the Europeans who can attend. Thank you, everyone. Let's do a silent dedication of merit. That means we offer out any merit that we generated here today to benefit all beings everywhere. Merit is the positive energy that we accumulate. Okay. Lots of love, everyone.
Thank you so much, dear Lamala, for unveiling these profound teachings for us today. We are just so grateful and can't wait for more. Thank you so much. And thank you for your kind words. Thank you. And thank you to each and every one of you for joining us today. And may we continue connecting this way. Please remember that next Sunday, we'll have a fantastic guest on Lama Life, one of the key teachers to introduce Buddhist mindfulness practice to the West, a best-selling author, Jack Kornfield. So it would be fantastic if you could join us live, if you can make it, January 29th, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Mountain time, 6 p.m. Central European time. And now I'd like to remind you that you can make a dana offering in gratitude for our time together today. And I hope you noticed the PayPal link I posted in the chat. Dana is a Pali word meaning generosity. And as one of the 6 paramitas or perfections, the practice of generosity is an integral part of the Buddhist path. Thank you so much, everyone. May we meet again and again on the path, and may all beings benefit everywhere.
Om tare tu re, Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om tare tu re, Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. Om tare tu re, Mangalam Shri Mahapani Swaha. tare ture.